Shalom, and welcome to my channel. I am J. Allen Bennett, and this is the Chosen and On the Spectrum analysis, where I deep dive into the series The Chosen from an autistic perspective. So this is the scene where we get introduced to Nicodemus and Quintus. And this is a delightful scene with a lot of world building, I would say. We're introduced to a lot of different concepts in this scene, which I like. Quintus. He reminds me a bit of the character Q from this one show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but it's a delightful show, and I kind of like the Q character. And this guy, he just kind of has that same sort of quality that I remember Q having. And he's the same kind of villain, I think, except that he doesn't have any godlike powers like Q, but, you know, he's pretty powerful. And I think this is I'm not criticizing the scene, but I find this comment that he makes, "I'm a magistrate, not a military man," to be a little absurd as a comment to what he is asking, or what Nicodemus is asking here. Are you arresting me? And Quintus is like, "I'm a magistrate, not a military man," which is absurd to me on so many levels. I'm not criticizing the scene. I just think Quintus is being rather silly here in this comment, because a magistrate is kind of like a person that enforces law, for one thing. So, are you arresting me? And the commenting with, "No, I'm a magistrate, not a military man," is silly. And it's also silly on another level, because I'm pretty sure that this is a military uniform that he's wearing, is it not? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is a uniform of a soldier, of a military man. You know, yes, he's an officer. He's not an infantryman, but he's definitely a military man, I would think. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure he is a military man. So it just seems silly to me that he would make this comment in reply to, "Are you arresting me?" It just seems absurd on so many levels. But I enjoy it nonetheless. I think it's delightful. So that we go on. I serve the will of the people, and Pilate. And Nicodemus replies to this, "And I serve only God." Now, God, for me, is an interesting word. And as an autistic person, I can be a little pedantic when it comes to a lot of things, particularly when it comes to words. I like deconstructing words. And this word God, I have to say, I take a bit of issue to. I don't feel like it really conveys the nature of the Creator as the Creator is talked about in the Bible, in either the Hebrew Bible and maybe to a less extent the Christian Bible, because Theos could be translated as God, maybe, but the Hebrew word for God, Elohim, is a very different word than the word God. I wanted to look at this word God. The English word God comes from the Proto-Germanic word Guthon. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce that word, Guthon. The earliest written form of the word is from the 6th century Christian Codex Argentis. The word was originally neuter, but changed to masculine to reflect the change in religion to Christianity. The exact origins of the word are still debated among linguists and historians. However, it is generally accepted that the word has Germanic origins and was used by Germanic peoples to refer to their deities. When Christianity spread to Germanic regions, missionaries encountered this word and adapted it to refer to the Christian God. And I ask you, why? Why did we adopt this word, God? What was the point in adopting this Germanic word for their deities as creator, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Why did we adopt this word? I don't understand. So, and you can read some of this. I'm not going to read all of that, but yeah, I find it a little bit problematic. The word God. It's not a name. It's a title, and I don't think it's a good title for who the creator is. Elohim is actually a plural word, and it conveys the idea that the creator is not a he or a she, it's a us. We see in the scriptures that the creator talks to himself as an us, not as an I or a me, but as a plural being. And so that's why we have the word Elohim, which is a plural word. El would be the singular form of God, which El was a being that the Canaanites worshipped. And Abraham worshipped this other being called El Shaddai, or later a newer name, a revelation came to Moses that the actual name of the creator is Jehovah, or Yod He Vav He are the letters. It's debated how we would pronounce the creator's name, but yeah, it's Abraham understood the creator to be named El Shaddai, and the title would be an Elohim. And Abraham was familiar with the Canaanite god El, and the Canaanites worshipped a being called Baal, but the actual creator, according to the Canaanite pantheon, the actual creator was a god named El. And so the Jewish people don't worship this being El, they worship Elohim. And sometimes you will see poetic license where in Psalms and maybe in Job you'll see the word El, but oftentimes, at least I've noticed that if you see El, you will see Jehovah mentioned twice. So it's either El for once, for one being, and then you'll see Jehovah twice, or you'll see Elohim, and then you'll just see Jehovah once. So, I'm sorry, I just had to go on that rant because I'm probably going to bring it up a lot that I take issue with this word God. I just don't think that it does the creator, the one that is the creator that is talked about in scripture and the Jewish scriptures. This word just doesn't work for me. So sorry if that offends people. I don't like offending people, but I just don't feel like this is the good name for the creator, and it's not biblical as far as I'm concerned. And then he says, so do your enemies. So he's saying, I only serve Elohim. I would think that he would. I know that in this time period they did not speak English, so he would not use that word. So he would probably say, I only serve El Shaddai, or I only serve Elohim. On we go. So do your enemies, and then we get description of some world building here. We learn about we have the Sadducees, the Essenes, and Zealots, and Nicodemus is a Pharisee. So we have all these four groups, and I provide some information on these three other groups and the fourth group there that you can read if you want. Let's go a little bit slower if you want to pause the video and you can read it on your own. So that is that. And then we go on, and this is the crux of the scene here, is that Quintus is wanting to get the help of Nicodemus because he believes that taxes are going unpaid. And he wants Nicodemus's help. So he says, if you help me, I will help the Pharisees continue to thrive. And Nicodemus is like, what? I can't. How could I possibly help you? The people are already drowning in taxes. And then Nicodemus brings up this idea of kind of a lame question, like a joke or something, or I don't know what you would call it, but it's a little lame, but at the same time, I find everything Quintus does to just be delightful. So even though it's lame, it's delightfully lame, his little joke, and then he's like, tell me, Nicodemus, what can be under the water and yet never drown, and yet never drown. And he's like, fish, which, yeah. So I think we're alluding to the idea that the Jewish people are stealing taxes by fishing on the Sabbath, which we learn later on is what's happening. And Quintus wants Nicodemus to help him. He wants Nicodemus apparently to sell out his people, and I don't think Nicodemus is necessarily going to do that. He does what he does is later on he'll give a little Bible study about how it's bad to work on the Sabbath. We shouldn't go fishing on the Sabbath, and we should not eat fish. But that we're getting ahead of ourselves. But yeah, he does this little Bible study later on in order to fight against these, in order to help him, I guess. And my question to you is it right for Nicodemus to help the bad guys here? Should Nicodemus help the bad guys? This could be like, maybe not quite to that extent, but you could compare it somewhat to like a Jewish person helping a German soldier in World War II, a German officer in World War II. Perhaps it would be considered really, really bad for a Jewish person to help a Roman officer. And so, would it be bad? What is your opinion? Would this be bad for Nicodemus to help him? And I think Nicodemus goes about this the right way. He tries to help by giving a Bible study and teaching Torah. So I think is a good solution. But I wanted to give my own little Bible study on what do we do when power is bad, when the bad guys are in power. So I wanted to read this. Kilo mimotza umimat arav velo mimidbar harim. So that means, for not from the east nor from the west nor from the desert comes exaltation. So So that's what that says. Then Ki Elohim Shofet Ze Yashpil Deze Yarim. So it's Elohim is the judge. He puts down one and exalts the other. So all authority comes from Elohim, and we also see that in the New Testament, though Nicodemus wouldn't have that scripture because there was no New Testament Nicodemus's time. But this idea that all authority comes from Elohim is in his scriptures. It's in Psalms. So we get this idea that even a bad guy like Quintus is brought up by the Creator. So how do we deal with that? How do we cope with this idea that a good Creator, Jehovah, Elohim, El Shaddai, is allowing bad people to be raised up? What do you think of that? I see an answer to this, and I believe that the answer is in the name. Jehovah, if you study the name, it makes sense. It's not too difficult to imagine that this is true, and that this isn't actually bad for us. There is going to be a solution to all of this. And we can read here that when bad people are in power, rest in Jehovah, wait patiently for him. Do not fret because of him who prospers in his way, because of the man who carries out wicked schemes. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil doing. So don't complain about your politicians who are in power, whether you like your politicians or not. Don't complain, is what that's saying. For evildoers will be cut off, but those who wait for Jehovah, they will inherit the land. And I would say, don't even call your politicians evildoers. Let's honor everyone. Let's have respect for everyone and not complain about people. New Testament scripture tells us to not grumble, don't dispute, don't argue, don't have factions. Let's just be at peace with everyone. For a little while, and the wicked man will be no more, and you will look carefully for his place, and he will not be there. But the humble will inherit the land and will delight themselves in abundant prosperity. And I want to check that out a little deeper, because I really like this verse. Va'anavim yershu, va'anavim yershu aretz. Vehit angu al rov shalom. But the humble will inherit the land and will delight themselves in abundant prosperity. And the humble, that's what that word means, or the meek, because do you recognize, this sounds familiar, and the meek shall inherit the earth, the humble shall inherit the earth. Va'anavim yershu, that's inherit, right there, and that's aretz is earth or land. Earth or land is what that means. And and it will delight vehit angu arov, an abundant shalom. They will delight in abundant shalom, and that word shalom is delightful. It has all these different meanings: completeness, soundness, welfare, peace, completeness, health, prosperity, peace, quiet, tranquility, content, on and on and on. It just has so many different great definitions for what this word shalom means. So it's a delightful word that I highly recommend using, because it covers so many delightful things. So that is how we should look at when bad people are in power, like Quintus, is to just see them as it's okay, because Jehovah will work everything out and bring shalom. Be humble, be meek, be kind, respect everybody, honor everyone, and just keep on doing things like Nicodemus does and do Bible studies and spread the good news, and eventually, because everybody has the good news and doesn't have any bad news and isn't hearing people complain about each other, if you just be light and you be kindness and you be joy, you be shalom, then the good news will spread and there won't be any more mean people who are in power. If we stop complaining or grumbling about mean people and stop even complaining about people who complain, I don't want to complain about people who complain either. I want to just be a light and salt of the earth and kind and shalom for everyone. And I believe that is what we all should be. So that is, I believe, the end of the. So shalom, shalom.